welcome Mr. Bob Warren. Yes, that's you, Bob. You can't believe half of this, can you?
So the way you start these is that you say, you know what the difference is in a fairy tale and an oil field story? And everyone says, no, tell me. Well, it goes like this. The fairy tales start with once upon a time, and the oil field story starts with, now this here ain't no, and fill in the blank. So we just, I don't know, I can tell you that it is like old home week coming back through here, and I apologize to those of you who are regulars and to the folks that lead OCF because this was always a place that I just like to block out a Wednesday on my calendar during the Pride days, and then coming back into IEDC, it seemed like I was always on the road. There was always, it was just the way the schedule ran. And so I've missed it. From time to time, I've connected with John and Bill and Steve and some of the rest of you. And Mike may not, he probably won't remember this, but being a younger man, maybe he does. I first encountered him in Aktau or Atyrau, Kazakhstan, nearly 20 years ago, when he was a brilliant, blazing young operations manager at Oryx. Okay, and so that point is these threads that all of you have made, they continue throughout your life, and you never know when you're going to encounter somebody, and so your faith and your experience and the connections that you have, all of that is critically important. Never, ever put it aside. Never, ever think that well, we used to say, be careful who you step on the way up, because you're probably going to encounter them on the way down. And it's a whole lot better to encounter friends on the way down than somebody that you've hurt or somebody that you've besmirched. And so I share that with you because I kind of, everybody in here is a part of a story. Everybody in here has had unique experience. Everyone in here has had unique relationships. But I would share with you that, I grew up, we used to say oil field trash was the next higher economic level in my family. My grandfather was a cable tool driller, and my mother grew up in Ariane in a drilling camp. My father grew up in the Ozarks in Arkansas, and his people were all moonshiners. And so he left when he was 17 and went off in the Army to the Aleutians, and that's where he spent his whole time in the military. And they didn't take prisoners, and so his worldview when he came back and after the war was pretty narrow. He and my mom, they got together. They had a very difficult relationship along the way because my dad was just very rigid. Now, I tell you about her growing up in Ariane because I started working on the rigs. I go out to one of the rigs. This is in San Angelo, and I go out to one of the rigs, working around there. One summer, I've been sacking groceries in years past. I've been pumping gas. I grew up on the south side of town, and like I said, we looked up to oil field trash and trailer trash is the next higher economic level. And so I walked out there on one of those rigs and said, "Hey, y'all, I need a job." And they said, "Hey, boy, we just sent one of our thong hands to the hospital, so you can be out here in the morning, and we just put you over there in that Weevil corner, and you can see if you can stay." And so I did that, and I came back at the next summer, and I worked there again, and I came back the next summer, and I go up to I go up to Lubbock. Nobody in my family in 1,000 years has ever been to college. And I go off up there because my dad said, boy, you need to go be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. And I said, well, I know what a doctor is, I know what a lawyer is, but what's an engineer? He says, I don't know, but you need to go do it. So I go up there and I'm talking to one of the counselors. I've never had anybody ever talk to me about what you ought to do in a career. Talk to me about what you ought to be thinking about. What do you like to do? I made good grades. I enjoyed working math problems, but I am absolutely ignorant. I say all that because every one of you in here is a counselor to somebody that doesn't know what they want to do, doesn't know anything about this industry, and it's an opportunity to do something that can be meaningful. More than that, it's an opportunity to A, get into your faith, and B, be an ambassador out in the world. And so they say, drilling, okay, you need to go into the petroleum school. I have no clue. So I go over there and talk to them and they say, yeah, come on in. We need to get some more people in this class. I have no idea what reservoir engineering, natural gas engineering, physics, I have no idea. But that's where I go and that's where I stay. And if I don't make good grades, I'm in way hot water trouble when I go home. So every summer, I'm back out on the rigs. Once in a while, I get to go home and I say, I'm still making it, Dad. I'm doing it. I don't know what I'm doing for sure, but I'm doing it. And so I get out of school and I go off in the Army. And in those days, we had the draft. And in those days, we had ROTC and we had military requirements. And so I did that. And that takes me to Southeast Asia. It takes me to Germany. And it takes me into some really interesting assignments in some places with some people that I would not have ever otherwise met. Now, I'm going to tell you a quick drop in here is that I came to understand that the Lord, I began to realize, has this big fishing boat, and he's sitting back there on the back of it with this fishing pole, and he's out there throwing. And out there somewhere, I take a bite. Don't know what it is. And so he's just reeling. And in the meantime, I'm off goofing around in other parts of the world. I'm still in the military. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want to be. I know I got this degree in petroleum engineering, but I'm off in the jungles. I'm off in places that nobody else wants to go. And I get out of the military and I'm going, what next? And the phone rings one day and it's a guy on the other end in Houston. And he says, hey boy, you want to go to Iran? And I said, yeah, that's down there by Fort Stockton and McCamey and Rankin, right? Yeah, I know. Was it a drilling job? And I said, no. It's Tehran and then south to Awaz. Now, Awaz, if you've never been into South Iran, is about 100 yards from where you fall off the edge of the earth, straight into eternity. It's rock. It's the other side of the moon. It's just that they were, in those days, making 6 million barrels a day in wells that we never saw in any of the textbooks. This was, and a drilling rig, a big drilling rig would burn down there every year in blowouts. I mean, it's just high pressure, high volume, and you had a few hardy souls that were out there working. So I'm still thinking, what am I doing here? What am I going? We work 24/7. We are out in the middle of the Bedouin, the camels, the goats, the rocks, but out in the middle of somewhere, there's a big drilling rig out there, and it is into high pressure, high gas, and that's what we did. So I get to know this man at the oil company who is from Oklahoma, and he's working for Mobil, and there were people from it's kind of like the Seven Sisters in Saudi Arabia. But I got to know him, and he was looking after some of our rigs. He's an engineer, and one day he says, "Hey, our daughter's coming over here to spend the summer with us. You want to come have dinner? Because we're always starving. We go to the rigs to eat. We don't have Starbucks, and we don't have McDonald's, and we don't have places to go get food so much. And so I go over there, and here's this girl, and she's kind of cute. And it turns out she's gone to school at Texas Tech. She's just about to graduate. And the short story is that I said, "This is really good." And her mama says, "She fixed it." And I said, "You know how to cook?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Can I marry your daughter?" Okay. And so in South Iran, the only church that was licensed, certified by the Iranian government to marry Westerners, Christians, which I was not in practice, but this is the Lord again. He's reeling a little bit closer. And so we get married in an Armenian church, and this here ain't no fill in the blank, but our only wedding certificate is in Armenian. And I said, "Okay, now I've got this wife, and she's going to cook for me, and she's going to take care of me, and I'm going to be out there running those rigs." And so one night, we're in there talking, and I said, "This is what I want to do." And she said, "Okay." And I said, "Well, you're not supposed to think that's a good idea." And she says, "But I must submit to you." And I said, I don't get that." And she says, "Well, I submit to you and you submit to me." And that was the first time in the conversation. We had no counseling about marriage. We had nothing, didn't know anything about finances, didn't know anything about faith, didn't know anything about politics. And she says, "Well, that's what I learned at Campus Crusade." And I said, "What?" Now we've been married about, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 months. I don't know. And she says, "Well, I came to Christ at Campus Crusade at Tech." And I just rolled my eyes and went, "I got one of those." We've never had that. There's a little community church out there. And I would go just because I could get off on Friday morning from my boss. He would let me go to church with my new wife. So the Lord is out there. And remember, he's reeling. And I am just kicking, and I'm going all over the place. And so in another year or two, kind of skip forward, and there start to become some riots, and there start to become some things going on, and there start to be some. We look up one morning, and a bunch of airplanes land and start taking out the oil company people, and some buildings start getting burned, and at night there's some gunshots start going off. And one morning we wake up, and there's a division of Iranian army tanks in the streets. And at that point, the airplanes start. We have no evacuation plan. And so we're talking to our bosses in Houston, and they say, "Hey, everything's okay. Don't shut down those rigs now. We got invoices that we got to make. We got payroll we've got to make." And so we watch Santa Fe, and their people all leave. And we watch Reading and Bates, and their people all leave. And we watch Dowell, and their people leave, and Schlumberger. And we're going, by now we have a little baby girl who is 6 weeks old. And we look up one morning, and 2 of the senior executives at the oil company have been assassinated. They're coming into their office, a car pulls out, blocks them, a couple of cars pull up on the side, and these are some folks that were from the PLO that had come in, and they were a hit team. And so then we start seeing signs on our windshields that say, you observe what we have done to your leadership. Our next victim will be an expatriate wife. Well, the airplanes then start flooding in, and everybody's gone. And in the middle of the night, we go down to Abadan and get a little twin otter that takes us to Bahrain. So the Lord, by that time, is saying, I'm knocking on the door. I'm not going to let you get hurt, but you need to come see me. I'm telling you that we leave there, we go to Libya, and my boss in Libya is one of those like my wife. And I'm thinking, I'm surrounded by these Christian evangelicals. And so I'm saying, one day down in the desert, I'm by myself, and I say, if you're out there, here I am. And the message is of surrender. I didn't know that. I thought by now I've become the youngest zone manager in the company. I'm in my mid 30s, 36, 37. And I'm thinking, I'm pretty good. And we've almost died in Iran. And we get down into the desert, and I'm thinking, what if I get lost down here? What if I roll over? What if the Bedouin come over the hill and, nobody ever hears of me again? I started thinking about life, and I started thinking about my wife, and I started thinking about this baby daughter. So that was a start. Now, the message is, you can make a commitment to the Lord. You can ask for him to be Savior, Lord of your life, and you think, I'm in. I'm like all of you. I got it. I'm in the club. But it's not like that. That's just the beginning. And you have this opportunity to stop and say, what next? Well, I look back and I don't see any way that I could have possibly planned any of this. So I start thinking, well, maybe there's something to this. All the planets align to find this young woman in South Iran who went to the same university I did. She's just a little bit younger. And how is that possible? So statistically, I said, there's got to be more to this than this cosmic calculus out there. This had to have been planned. And then we go from there to Abu Dhabi. We're going to run an operation in Abu Dhabi. Well, we have a son born in Abu Dhabi. And I'm really feeling tough then. I'm feeling so strong. We've got an operation in Oman and Abu Dhabi and in Pakistan and Kuwait. And I look up and my wife says, you don't get it. I said, what? What do you mean I don't get it? I'm the man. And she says, no, I'm going to take the children and we're going to leave a little bit early on vacation because I think you need to spend some time and understand why you are the head of the household, but why you are the covering for me and our kiddos. So she packs up and leaves. And probably it was one of those, another God thing. A friend came across and he says, you ever heard about brokenness? No. Brokenness. So he gives me a set of tapes about what it means to sit down inside, what it means to surrender, and what it means to be humble. And I'm telling you, that was the hardest thing that I had ever had to do. And I've been in some pretty challenging places. And so I went on back to the States, and we had an understanding of my needing to change my mind, change my heart. I needed to look at the path for the Lord, and we go back and we go from there to Pakistan, and we're in Pakistan, and we come back to Dubai. We're this all across about 12, 13 years. And one day, and this is in the mid 80s, and some of you will perhaps remember that, the oil field pretty well shut down. And all the contracts in the Arabian Gulf, all the rigs, everything shut down. And so they call one night and they say, look, you're going to have to come back to the States, and we're sorry, we don't have anything else for you to do. And so just go home and hang out, and one of these days maybe there'll be some opportunity. And by now we've had another kid and in Dubai, and oh, by the way, there's a fourth one on the way. And I'm starting to think, this is one of those God moments. You're giving us all these kids, and you give me all this responsibility, and then you take all the way to provide for it away. So, guess what? There's another one of those. What's this all about? I don't understand, because I'm used to having answers for everything. I'm used to understanding why one step follows another, and they're not following. So we come back to the States, and one day the phone rings and a guy says, we can get you into graduate school at UT. So I'm saying, oh, I'm the man again. I'm going to go to UT. I'm going to get this MBA. I'm going to be. So I go down there and I'm rocking through, and I do a great job. Now I get out of finish the program, but there's no work. And I've sent out 1,000 resumes, and I've got this, I am platinum. Phone doesn't ring, nothing. And there's one little piece in the paper that's for a pipeline repair company, and they need an operations manager. I said, that's me, I can do this. And I go and answer that, and do you know where it is? It's in Pasadena, and it's a sewer repair business. And I said, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this, and I'm going to go work in the sewers. Brokenness. I'm telling you. And if you haven't experienced it, you need to, because it will absolutely bring you to your knees. And so I said, so darling, you wouldn't expect me to do this, would you? And she said, well, sweetheart, Christmas is coming. And so I go and I do that. Now, I'm working with guys that you see. I'm one of those guys with the vest on and the stop sign when I'm not down in the manhole inspecting these sewer lines. And I got to tell you that is humbling. And every night when I went home, and the kids are all in bed, the lights are out, I get on my knees and I say, I get it. You can't use me until you get me where you want me. And so I'm working along there, and the next thing that happens is Saddam Hussein invades Iraq, and about 4 months later, they're getting kicked out of Iraq, but they decide that they're going to blow up 700 oil wells in Kuwait and turn it into literally hell on earth. And the phone rings one day, and the folks at Pride called and said, hey, we hear you've been in the Middle East. We don't know where Kuwait is, but we got a contract there and we need somebody to go run it. So I spent the next year, 1991, after the Army's thrown all the Iraqis out of Kuwait, there with Boots and Coots and Red Adair and Wild Well. That was pretty amazing. If you've never seen, if you ever thought about being at the gates of hell, that was going into hell. If you've ever seen the IMAX movies, they sort of get it. Kuwait was on the verge of being destroyed. So all of that passes. About a year, all the wells are out. Kuwait's starting to rebuild. And I come back and they say, how's your Russian? I don't know. Russian? They're the guys that were building the bomb that we were supposed to be fighting against in the Army. well, we got some rigs going to Russia, so that's your next stop. So go learn Russian down at University of Houston. And so I spent the next 7, 8 years mostly in Russia. My kids thought I had another family there because you get to Russia and everything goes wrong and you just don't get to come home. So we do that. And I would tell you that those years were more for, started taking Cyrillic Bibles and loading up my suitcases and going into Moscow with Russian language Bibles. And the encounters that you'd have with the customs officers would be, can I have one? Close up your suitcase. Don't let anybody know you have these, and go on through. So there's an opportunity, and I don't know, some of those Bibles, they're from, they weren't yours. They were from Bible League, got them by the case. And so I began to say, Lord, what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to talk to? Put somebody in my path who needs one of these Bibles. And they turned out to be directors of these oligarchs, these guys that, you'd come across in some of the wrong places, and you'd go back to see them a second time and they'd say, you got another one of those? I gave that one to my mother. I need another one for my mother-in-law. Some of those are still floating around out there. And it's my absolute belief that from there you go on and you get around in this industry to places like Nigeria and Chad and Venezuela. You talk about Venezuela, you talk about Colombia. We ran a big operation in Brazil for a long time. And every place there are people who need the Lord, who want the Lord, they just don't know the Lord. And so sometimes you can open that conversation. Sometimes you can just have somebody ask you, what do you believe? What do you think is important? We're suffering. We need help. And I would tell all of you that you have in this industry the opportunity to share the gospel. You have the opportunity to say, I've been where you are. You have the opportunity to say, I know somebody that might be able to help you with your interest or your job. And so that's what we're called to do. We're called to be ambassadors of the gospel. And sometimes it's hard to do that because we work in a pretty rough business. And we work around people who are now this here ain't no fill in the blank. I would leave you with the fact that we are on a short journey, and life is very precious. And one last point in my case, about 3 years ago, I was just getting a regular routine physical. I turned 74 a couple of weeks ago. For me, retirement is not scriptural. I choose to continue on. I continue to serve at IEDC. I know a few people and I've been around a few places, and so it's a way to be of service, and that's what this chapter of my life is about. But I had a routine physical, and the doctor said, your PSA is a little bit high. Go down and check with this urologist. So I do that, and he says, your PSA is a little high. I say, yeah, I get it. And he says, well, let's go get an MRI and a biopsy. So I do that. He says, got a problem. I say, well, talk to me about problems. Well, we need to do this, this, and this. And my wife's standing there, and she says, maybe not. Let's talk this over. So we have a friend who has a friend who runs the gerontology department at MD Anderson, and he says, let's try a Mediterranean diet and some exercise and let's do some other things. Let's don't go down this irreversible road first. And so we did that. And about 6 months later, he says, okay, you're making some progress. And about a year later, he says, you're making some progress. And in January of just now, about 2 weeks ago, it's in the normal zone. And I say, prayer is all we have. Asking the Lord for divine direction is all we have. And the chair of the department is a very neat Greek guy, and his name is Christopher, which is our baby grandson's name, and his last name is Logothetis, which translated in a couple of ways is Word of God. And it became that moment of saying, and I don't know, I may drive out of here. I've got to go to Oklahoma City in a little while. I may be called as I'm on the way to the airport. There are 1,000 ways that any of us may not finish out today, but you have to be ready to do that. And I can tell you that going up to MD Anderson, you suddenly realize that there are a lot of people in there that aren't going to be coming back the next time that you're there. So I would just counsel you to reach out and hug your loved ones when you get home. If you have issues going on in your family, solve them. If you have needs in your work or your lack of work, if you have needs in your journey, whatever it is, then build your faith, reach out to people that care for you, and find new people to care for you, and carry on. I bless you guys. This place is like a reunion. This is like homecoming, and you guys are part of the family. I appreciate it.